There's a specific kind of silence that messes with your head more than any argument ever could, because it's not loud, it's not even clear enough to move on from. It's the kind of silence where someone hurts you, or crosses your boundary, or says something that actually lands deeper than you expected, and then just keeps going on like nothing ever happened. And you're left there, replaying it at the worst possible times, in the shower, on a walk, mid-task, trying to decode a tone of voice, a message they sent, or that one sentence that felt slightly off, wondering if you imagined it or if it actually meant what you think it meant. And the weirdest part is, they don't seem to be affected by it at all. They've moved on, they're posting, laughing, talking normally, and acting completely unaffected, while you're still mentally stuck inside a moment that ended for them hours, days, or weeks ago, but somehow it never fully ended for you. And at first, it doesn't even feel like anger. It feels like confusion, like your brain is still trying to complete something that never got resolved, like there's supposed to be a follow-up sentence that never came, or an apology that would finally let your mind stop reopening the same memory over and over again. And if I'm being honest, I think a lot of us get stuck there longer than we admit, not because we want revenge necessarily, but because we're waiting for something simple: closure. Closure, acknowledgement, clarity, anything that would make the experience feel finished instead of just abandoned, put to the side. But the part that hits later, the part nobody really talks about, is that some of the things that hurt you are never going to get that acknowledgement from the person who caused them. And if you keep waiting for it, you end up emotionally tied to a moment that the other person has already left behind completely. I think what makes that harder is how normal everything else looks around them. Like you'll see them act fine, or you scroll past something, or you hear about them through someone else. And there's this strange contradiction where your internal world still feels unfinished, but their external world looks untouched. And that mismatch is where the mental loop really starts to tighten. Because in your head, you keep thinking to yourself, if it actually mattered, wouldn't they feel it too? But the truth is, people don't process impact equally, and sometimes the absence of their reaction has nothing to do with the size of what happened and how you feel, and everything to do with their capacity to sit with it. This is where it usually shifts from confusion into something heavier, because now you're not just remembering what happened, you're also trying to solve it. Like if you think about it enough, or frame it differently enough, or finally explain it in a perfect way, it will somehow unlock a response that never came. I used to do this more often than I'd like to admit, replaying conversations while doing completely unrelated things, walking around the house thinking through what I should have said, what I should have done, rewriting sentences in my head like there was still a version of the past that I could just edit if I found the right wording. The uncomfortable realization that I found was that most of those moments aren't unsolved, they're just unreturned. And that's a very different thing. Because unsolved implies there's still a solution somewhere out there waiting to be found, but unreturned just means the other person never came back to it. And that's where forgiveness becomes uncomfortable, because forgiving someone who never apologized can feel like you're erasing accountability, like you're saying it was fine when it wasn't fine at all. And I get that resistance, I really do, because there's a part of you that doesn't want to let something go if it never got properly acknowledged, almost like holding on to the memory is the only way to prove it actually mattered. But what I've slowly learned is that holding on to it doesn't actually keep it alive in a meaningful way. It just keeps you returning to it, kind of like a toxic relationship or a toxic cycle, long after the other person has stopped visiting it in their own mind entirely. And there's usually a quieter moment where that starts to become obvious, not dramatic or sudden, just in a subtle way. Like you notice the memory doesn't hit as sharp as it used to, or you catch yourself replaying it and you realize that you're not even looking for answers anymore. You're just automatically looping it out of habit. And that's when the real pivot starts to form, because instead of asking, why didn't they apologize? You start asking yourself something more uncomfortable but more honest. Why am I still waiting for something that already happened to change? That question alone doesn't fix them, and it doesn't rewrite the past, but it does something else. It pulls you back into the only place where anything has actually changed, which is your attention. Because forgiveness, at least the kind that actually frees you, was never about approving what happened. It was about noticing that the replay doesn't punish them anymore. It only punishes yourself. And when that starts to land, even slightly, you begin to realize something strange. That the emotional weight doesn't come from the original moment anymore. It comes from how often you revisit it when nothing is actually happening. And maybe that's the part nobody frames clearly enough. You're not stuck in what happened, you're stuck in how often you're still going back to it. And I think that's where forgiveness quietly stops being a moral decision and starts becoming a practical one. Not because they earned it, not because it was fair, but because you eventually realize that your present life is too small and short to keep replaying something that no longer has a future in it. And I think if you're there right now, still carrying something that never got acknowledged, still replaying conversations that never resolved the way you needed them to, I don't think the goal is to force yourself to move on faster. I think it's just noticing, gently and honestly, how often you're choosing to re-enter something that isn't actively happening anymore. Because sometimes the most freeing shift isn't "it didn't matter." It's "it mattered and I don't need to keep proving that anymore." And when that finally starts to settle in, forgiveness stops feeling like something you do for them, and it starts feeling like the moment you finally stop reliving something that already ended. Thanks for watching, Rardo, and I'll see you in the next video.